Bear Brothers, the Vireon Saga, Part 7. Grounded, a long stay. The next 5 or 6 decades were prosperous for the Fenrisians and Vireons. The Space Wolves prepared themselves for a long stay. There was no telling how long before contact with the Imperium would be re-established. With the Orcish threat neutralized, there was less need to guard the cruiser wreck, and all that was worth saving was transported to Jegan Station. The Astartes had cleared, expanded, and reinforced the guard compound, claiming it as their headquarters, and the colonists began to rebuild the rest of the city. Knowing the nature and explosive proliferation of orcs, they fortified and prepared, and conducted frequent incursions into the Blacklegs. Regrettably, they lacked the manpower and equipment to eradicate them completely. The Space Wolf warriors quickly adapted to life on the rainy world. Eventually, they began to revere the ferocious Vireon bears as they did the wolves of Fenris. They would often strip their armor and race into the deep forest, accompanying the more feral tribes on their wild hunts, or join them out at sea on their longships, fishing the tumultuous deep. The Fenrisian warriors captured and trained some of the mighty bears in hopes of replacing their lost, beloved wolves. Beyond rebuilding and keeping the subdued orcs in check, there was not much else to pass the years. The various human factions ceased to truly exist. There were no more rebels or loyalists. The colonists mingled so heavily with the native Vireons that there was little difference anymore. Even the Fenrisian bondsmen and women settled down and mixed with the other humans. They were mostly now unneeded for their original duties. Servitor thralls were able to handle most of the Marines' needs. It was not only blood that was merging, but also ideology. Vireon tribal customs had much in common with Fenrisian tradition. The Fenrisian wolf gods and the idea of the Emperor as the All-Father melded with the pagan beliefs of the natives. Some traditions gave way to others, and new traditions were born. While the idea of an All-Father persisted, it skewed toward the traditional Fenrisian incarnation of a god, rather than being the Emperor himself. Space Wolves had never really bought into the imperial cult in any case. This heretical attitude was one of the primary causes for the hostility with the ecclesiarchy. But these beliefs echoed those of pre-heresy Space Wolves, and surely Leman Russ himself. Vireon tribal dogma was of no great offense to the Astartes. It hardly mattered here on this remote planet. Besides, this belief system was not one of observance or practice. It was simply accepted conviction. No, if Vireons worshipped any one entity, it was Vireo itself. What should have been of more concern was changing attitudes toward the Imperium, or more precisely, toward the Administratum and the High Lords of Terra. The rebel perspective was not really much more extreme than that of the Loyalists or even the Fenrisians. They had all been wronged. Vireo had a long history of being disappointed and abused by the Imperium's representatives, and distrusted it greatly. The Space Wolves themselves had seen battle with inquisitorial forces in their own lifetimes. Those separatist agendas had been permanently left behind when the insurgents were re-enfranchised. Over time, ambivalent sentiment towards Terran administration coalesced into a general disdain. The consensus stood that the Imperium of Man was not in good hands. Loyalty was first to Russ, then to the Emperor, and last to the imperial bureaucrats.